Today, I'm sharing with you a little bit of my own personal journey that connects to these themes and understandings of what is the difference between a survival skill versus a superpower. And once we are aware of and can notice that difference, how do you actually get that movement of transforming a survival skill into a superpower? So I'm going to start off by sharing a little bit of my own kind of personal experience through that journey. So when I was quite young, around fourth grade, I developed some pretty intense symptoms of anxiety. And this really showed up through the Mad Minutes. I imagine a lot of y'all will remember that name and go, oh, yeah, those Mad Minutes, I remember that. So, this is, for those of you who don't recognize it by this name, this is the multiplication where you'd have 60 different multiplication problems to solve, and you had 1 minute 60 seconds to do that to see how many you would get done. So like high stakes, high pressure, right? And math has never been the thing that's come the easiest to me. It's the one subject in school I've had to work a little bit harder to get the grades that I had wanted. So I would be just kind of what's the word? A little bit paralyzed and have like two questions done and that it just overwhelming anxiety. I ended up having nightmares. I'd wake up in the middle of the night crying, go get my mom. I can't sleep. I'm worried about the Mad Minute tomorrow. The anxiety was so based in my digestive system and so somatic that I would throw up in the middle of the night from how anxious I felt about doing the math problems. And luckily, I had a lot of love and support around me with my parents, my stepdad, and my mom. You know, they would put me in a warm bubble bath and do my flashcards, and I learned to master that, right? And it eased mastery over that was my solution to the emotional symptoms, I guess, that were rising up. So I would have my parents do those flashcards and they would be like, honey, you know them, you've mastered them. And I would say, no, 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 shuffle those up, do them again. Let's make sure that I'm not coming up with the answer because I've memorized the order and I don't truly know how to do this. So they'd be like, all right, shuffle it up, do it again. One more time, please, one more time, right? And I knew that stuff like the back of my hand, but this is the way I learned to cope with that. I'm going to get above it. I'm going to get ahead of it, right? And essentially from that point on, I had straight A's. And of course, it transitions to the 4.0s in higher ed, right? From fourth grade all the way up through from this way of functioning. And so as I get older, there would be times maybe where you just get so used to this being something you internalize as this is my identity. I am a perfectionist, right? Getting these grades is important to me. I am highly intellectual. This is the formation of part of the identity that we have. Or certainly that I had, right? But extrapolating to what's your situation. So I'm going to share some insights, but I want you to see here as I'm talking about this, I just functioned within that system without fully realizing what was happening on a deeper level until probably within the last 5 years. It took some time to get to the realizations I'm going to share with you toward the end of this. So moving along in this journey, I have a moment where I'm in grad school and it's near the end. And one of the professors did this activity where there's just a large white poster board and it has your name on the middle of it. That's it. And then everybody in the cohort goes around and writes a comment about, here's what I appreciated about you. It's a little bit of a sentimental parting gift as you're getting ready to graduate. And, we're going around writing all the things, taking that time. And at the end of that, when I get back and I look at my poster, every single comment on that poster says, Miranda, you're the most intelligent person I've ever met. Miranda, I love when you speak up in class. I always am eager to hear what you have to say. I've never met somebody as smart as you. Trying to think of other ways to say that, but you get the drift. Every single comment was, you're the most intelligent person I've ever met, right? And as I'm looking and I say that here, follow me along. Don't turn this off and be like, oh my gosh, he's humble bragging. No, I'll get to the good stuff. The point is, as I was sitting and reflecting on that, it hit me. And I had a little realization of something is missing here, right? There's an emptiness to this, which I now, well, even then at the time, I think that emptiness was, there's nothing on this that resonates the highest truth, right, of the higher realms of life, which is that love is all there is ultimately. And I'm not seeing much about love in this, right? This is very earthly, you're intelligent. Nothing about warmth, nothing about you lifted me up, nothing about kindness. And I thought, ooh, I think I may be a little out of alignment. So I noted it, but I didn't shift into further alignment at that point. That was still just an observation and a notation. There was more experience, more lived experience, more things lined up meant to happen before I got to the level of the deeper transformation and more awareness. So I had a little taste of something doesn't feel quite right, but I didn't know fully what that was or how to make that transformation or healing. So fast forward to, let's say, within the last couple of years, just as a part of this, really, I think I've mentioned within the last 6 or 7 years has been the, what I call my spiritual awakening that has just continues to ascend, unfold. In that work, there's been a lot of healing, a lot of shadow work that I have had this deep intuitive knowing of, this is necessary because I am only going to be able to provide a certain level of healing based on where my own healing is. So eventually, through this process of my own healing journey, which includes introspection, just increased self-awareness, reflecting, of course, my spiritual practices of meditation and just that inner dialogue with my own spirit team, and going to see my own soul therapist, I ended up getting to this point of integration of what was formerly fragmented. And so, as I use this example with clients I work with, I'll say the same kind of preface here. When I say this to you, it's going to sound so simple, like 1 + 1 = 2. How did it take 34 years, less than that, because this happened like when I was around the time where I was 10, 11, 12, right? But how did it take over 20 years for you to connect these dots, Miranda? But I say this to let y'all know this is how trauma works, and this is how fragmentation happens, right? This is how it feels when you're living that life and you're the direct experiencer of that trauma. That fragmentation feels like you're so close to this picture that all you see is the color blue, and you say, oh, this must be a picture of an ocean. But when you are able to go through the process of the healing and work with a healing practitioner, it helps you to have that pull back sensation and process. And so what looked like all blue and you thought it was the ocean is actually this large picture of a sea of 100 people, and what you saw was someone's blue shirt, right? Being inside of it to that degree makes it feel so disconnected, disjointed. So the one plus one equals two, kind of, how didn't you see this? Let me get to that. I was able to arrive at um, what's the word? Like an integration of what had formerly been fragmented and had dissonance around it. And so when I say this to you, I think it will make sense and it will feel like one plus one equals two. How didn't you link these dots? But that's how that feels when you're on the inside of your own story and you have trauma that creates this fragmentation. Um, it is dissonance, right? And so it feels that way until you're on the other side of it through the help of working with a healing practitioner most of the time. So, like I said, I told you the origin story, the onset, kind of the anxiety symptoms and how those manifested, and what my survival skill of that perfectionism and academic achievement then started from the fourth grade. And I hadn't realized this piece that I now know, which is the actual trigger to the onset of that anxiety. In the fall of that same year, start of that school year, another child who I loved dearly at the time, like very close in age to me, around that period of time, that child had um, experienced some quite abusive type of behavior centering around academic performance. And I was there to witness that exchange. Makes sense, right? Like, of course, then you started to have anxiety and it manifested completely in your performance on the Mad Minutes, which was a timed and pressured kind of thing. And so I say that with all the vulnerability and humility involved, letting you into that world, to just give a demonstration of how strong that dissonance can be, where, like I said, that was an aha moment, like, whoa, this is the antecedent to this whole patterning, right? There was 20 years worth of me not having that realization, and leading to then those survival skills just being like I was overly identifying my personality through that. I ended up, as I'm talking about that grad school scenario where the poster board is feeling empty to me, of like, there's some coldness here, there's some aloofness here, where all these comments are like really about IQ, and they're missing something that is supposed to be connected to my deeper spiritual essence, right? Is that over identification with that survival skill of that perfectionism and academic achievement came alongside with it these walls up around my heart center, right? This turning inward, this self-protection, and the softness and the warmth that is a part of my more true self, my soul essence, was not as visible at that part of my life, when I had then started to recognize there's not the amount of alignment and deeper truth here as I'd like there to be. So I had that like feeling, that recognition of being out of alignment during the reflection of the poster board exercise. And yet the integration and the healing and the realizations that I just shared with you didn't come for another several years afterward, to be able to help detach my sense of worthiness and my sense of safety from that performative functioning so that I could let the walls around that heart space drop to the ground to have more of a blossoming, which I'll also call like a returning to home, a returning to self at this deeper kind of level that brings me then back into a level of soul alignment. And when I talk to other people sometimes about this, there can be a sense of defense mechanisms that arise even in that conversation. Like, it's vulnerable to recognize what your survival skills are. What I mean by that is, if you went back in time and asked me when I was like 22, 23, right around the time when I was in grad school, if you had come to me then and said, "Hey, Miranda, do you think your academic achievement is a part of over-identification that is coming from like some wound, some place of woundedness and survival skills that you might need to heal?" Oh, yikes. To that person who feels confident to approach the 22-year-old version of myself, I would not have received that well. I'm certain of that. That's funny. I'm trying to think of how else I wanted to explain that, but I think there's a piece of that where I'm thinking of somebody who've had similar conversations with, and I can feel a little bit of like that defensiveness rising, because it's almost like, are you threatening the removal of this part of myself, the survival skill, which feels, it's a survival skill. It's deeply connected to my sense of safety and self-preservation, right? So dare somebody threaten that piece of me and make it feel like the ground is falling out from under me. And so what I say to try to help people gain more of an understanding and a comfort level with the healing work that we're going to be doing is, you're not going to lose that survival skill. I'm not going to take it from you. What we're doing is we're going to detach your sense of worthiness and safety from this skill. You can keep this skill. You can keep it. There's no way I could take that from you. This is a fundamental piece of your life journey, and all of it was meant to happen on a spiritual level, right? You're meant to garner the gifts that come along with your journeying. And so there are elements of my ability to perform and achieve like that I have lost. No, I haven't lost that. What has happened is I've detached my sense of feeling enslaved to it, because my deeply rooted sense of self-worth, safety, security feels much more in alignment with my eternal state of being, with my soul truth, with my spirituality, all of those things. So I don't have to engage in mastery, performance, like um, working hard, work ethic, all of those things, in order to make sure that I feel like I'm okay, right? I feel I'm okay when I'm not doing those things. And I also still know that I am very capable of maintaining and pulling in, and I do use those skills now. I use it when I want to, in a way that serves me, and instead of in a way where I serve it. And that is the transformation from survival skill into superpower. As I return to this greater sense of alignment with who I am on the deeper soul level, and my heart chakra has really just opened. I had a very similar type of exercise that was done actually at my last place of employment in the kind of like team bonding activity. And instead of the large poster card, they use little index cards, but it was really the same exercise. And, you write your name at the top. So it said Miranda. It gets sent around the room, and then it comes back to you. And I think actually on the day that this happened, I was out of the office, and kindly they still created a card with my name on it and passed it around. So I came back into this card sitting on top of my desk when I had returned to work, and the comments looked very different. You make me feel calm. There's a softness and a safety to you. Your humble leadership is an inspiration. I feel more confident in myself when I am around you. That feels more correct to me. That feels, or maybe I don't want to say correct, but that feels more like that's where it is, right? This is who I really am. Much more about that part of me than the earlier description on that poster board that I shared. And as I move from that space of alignment, of love, of light, of stepping in to embodying and living with the essence of my soul, when I reflect back on my life and the things that that really touch my heart and that make me feel like this is one of my proudest accomplishments, is above any award, above any grade or like report card achievement, anything measurable in that regard, is this experience I had when I was, I believe, in 7th grade. And we had been reading The Lord of the Flies, which I'm just going to read to you for anyone who doesn't know the basic synopsis of that book. I think most of you will, but just to refresh your memories. Lord of the Flies by William Golding tells the story of a group of boys stranded on a deserted island after a plane crash. Initially, they attempt to establish order and create rules, but as time passes without adult supervision, their civilized behavior deteriorates into savagery and chaos. The novel explores themes of inherent human evil and the loss of innocence, ultimately illustrating how quickly civilization can break down in the absence of societal structures. And the main characters there that are kind of at odds, and one is a little bit more of the voice of morality and humble leadership, which is Ralph, if I'm remembering correctly, and the opposite, who becomes a little bit more of the leader of the power and control savage type of group, is Jack. So after we were done reading that book, my teacher had the whole class do this activity where he had said, we're going to kind of pretend that we are that group on that stranded island, and we have to vote in who is it that we're going to put into the leadership position. And so everyone wrote on a little piece of paper who they wanted to vote for and put it in the ballot, and it was anonymous. And then he pulled out and read the name rather, and of that class of 20 something kids, and he read each one out loud too. Oh, that's making me emotional. Miranda, 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 Miranda. There were no other names in there. Every single one was Miranda. This is not about performance. This is not about my grades. This is not about having straight A's, right? This is touching something deep in me of what my classmates felt from me, with that light, that leadership that comes with You make me feel safe. You make me feel more confident in myself. You make me feel more calm, right? Intellect, I mean, only gets us so far if it's not fully integrated into the essence of your soul. And this is where it becomes wisdom.